All right. It's about that time to get started. Hello, Jay. Welcome.
Oh, glad to be here.
Yes, welcome to today's stream where we're doing more DC stuff. You weren't here last time where I talked about the DC animated movies. A lot of animated stuff, a lot of talking for an hour just by myself. I don't normally do that, so
Yep.
my voice was pretty dry at the end. But yeah, your
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have much to say about any of those. So,
yeah, but you're more of a film goer, so this is the
yeah.
part that you're more a part of. You've seen most, if not everything here, I assume. That we're
Yeah.
covering
I
today.
think I've seen pretty much those. I think I've seen most of the big ones.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get started here with the 60s Batman movie. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
I watched it a couple years ago. Um, in sort of, I was watching all of the theatrical Batman movies that I hadn't seen before. And
right.
I mean, this is such a delight. This is just silly and fun in a way that superhero movies generally aren't. Like
Mm-hmm.
the closest thing to this is the Lego Batman movie. Just in terms of that wacky silliness. Yeah, I had so much fun with this. I watched it with or I had it on and members of my family kept walking into the living room and pausing to stop and watch little bits and pieces of it and then yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I grew up watching the TV show, the 60s TV show, because like this is back in the day where YouTube pretty much allowed whatever, and so I was able to watch the show on YouTube. Um, and so then I watched the film eventually, and I love it. It's kind of like a really long episode of the show, but with a higher budget, like they can go out on the water, they can get a helicopter, they can drive. It's like cool, big budget Hollywood stuff. I love the campiness of it. Um, this is what I wish a lot of things could be more bright and colorful. Not afraid to
Yeah.
go with like the comic book costumes. Um, Not to say that what we have nowadays isn't great and cool, but I like this. I like it's very friendly, uh, good old times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite of the Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I might put this in my top three or four Batman, which of course we will be talking about other versions of this.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, this is just so much fun in a way that comic book movies don't tend to get to be anymore.
Mm. Well, we'll see. We'll see how things turn out with
Yep,
the
yep.
new DCU, because it seems like Gunn is moving towards fun.
Oh yeah. But I mean even like which we'll get to it, James Gunn's Superman has a level of importance to it
Mm-hmm.
that this Batman movie just it isn't burdened with importance in that same way. This is just kind of a fun hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yeah.
somewhere in between that.
Yeah. Sure. A simple.
There's no dealing with the legacy of the characters or any sort of bigger ideas. It's just I don't think is really possible. Even like the Lego Batman movie is dealing with Batman's legacy
Yeah.
in a way that this one just is doesn't have to.
Yeah. This one kind of skewed my perception of like what live action TV shows for superheroes could be, because I grew up watching this and was like,
Yeah.
oh, they accurately did Batman in the '60s, and then I watched like the Arrowverse, and I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna build up to like the characters in the comics in their prime, and then they never did, and it's like, oh, well, something changed there. I don't know. I'll talk
Yeah.
more about that in the next stream when we talk about TV shows. Um, but yeah, why don't we move on to another classic superhero in Superman, the movie?
Yeah, yeah, Superman. This is the Richard Donner directed Superman. Yeah, this one, understanding of it was sort of designed to be this attempt to bring superheroes into the cinematic medium with a bit more gravitas, a bit more, um, treating it as this big, important movie, this blockbuster type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have, Marlon Brando in here. We have Gene Hackman, these two legendary actors who, even at this point of their careers, were incredibly well known. Um, yeah, this is an epic. It's this big, long, sprawling film. That was when I sat down to watch this recently because I hadn't seen it since then. It'll be 2 hours. That'll be fine. But no, it's like 2.5 hours long. It like starts with 40 minutes of like non-Superman. Like Superman doesn't show up until 45 minutes in.
Sure.
But yeah, I really like the Metropolis stuff. I think, Christopher Reeves as Superman is, and as Clark Kent, just an incredible performance. Him and Margot Kidder as Lois Lane are just incredible chemistry. Their scenes together are awesome. All of the stuff in Metropolis I like. The other stuff, the first hour and the last 30 minutes, I'm not as big a fan of.
Okay. I mean, I like it all. Looking back, it's like it's a Superman film where Superman doesn't fight like big bad guys. It's him solving simple crimes and then trying to stop natural disasters. It's an interesting direction to take for a first film, but I think it gets people used to the idea of like, oh, this is Superman with what he can do with against normal things. And then we get to the sequel where we introduced him with like a level playing field with like different bad guys, and makes for a cool sequel as well.
Yeah, that's I mean, there is sort of a goofiness to this. Lex Luthor's big plot here is, he's in this land and is going to try and turn it into coastal property. And
Sure.
yeah, Superman is flying around the Earth in reverse to turn back time. And
Yeah.
so there are still those like little comic book elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is an interesting one. Again, I don't love it the way some other people love it, but I do feel more fondly about Superman 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, Richard Donner was in the process of directing it and was actually fired off of it, and they brought in Richard Lester, who's probably most well known for, besides the Superman movies, he did a lot of movies with the Beatles. But yeah, this is sort of, as a result, a bit of a confused project where it has a slightly different tone, a slightly different style.
A little more comedic.
I liked it.
Yeah. I like it too.
I like the comedy of it. There's sort of a screwball energy to the Lois and Clark stuff. That's
Sure.
fun.
Yeah. This also eventually we got a version of the Richard Donner cut, where we got to see the cut Marlon Brando scenes, and I think that was just a huge misstep to not have that in the original film, because those are scenes that connect to the first film so much better. than what was done here, because
Yeah.
there's like a lot of weirdness that happens here when we get to the fortress that is definitely part of the reshoots. It's like, huh, why did they do it like that? But
But yeah, because they didn't want to pay Brando
a
for
lot.
this movie if they
Yeah.
didn't have to. So they've sort of excised him from the theatrical release. But yeah, no, it is fascinating because these two Superman movies were actually like planned ahead of time to be this duology. And so that's why the first Superman, sets up General Zod and all of that stuff on Krypton.
Yeah.
And then this one is sort of calling back, and they were supposed to be filmed back to back. I think there were reshoots that were done once Richard Donner was fired that then kind of messed things up. But they did have like an outline that feels, very much like what modern superhero movies are doing, where they're planning ahead and introducing elements and villains that are going to come up later. And it is kind of unfortunate that Richard Donner didn't get to finish his vision, because he did also have ideas for future Superman movies involving Brainiac and bringing in these other elements from the comic that the sequels that we actually did get are drawing kind of more or less from the comics. They're
Sure.
coming up with some of their own things that maybe
Well,
didn't go over so well.
yeah, and for like for reasons, of course, we'll get to, um, due to like budgetary and restrictions and such.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like notoriously, the ending with Superman 1 with him going the doing the time travel thing is supposed to be the ending of the second one. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I enjoy them both, like flaws and all. Just a simple fun time. I'm more lenient in retrospect of older films because it's like, oh, well, it's not my time period. I don't have no reason to be angry at it, so you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of angry, we have Superman 3.
Yeah, so this is they bring back Richard Lester as director.
Mm.
And there were several of the actors from the Richard Donner Superman movies were very loyal to Richard Donner, and so they weren't able to get the same people back. So we don't have Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor in this one, and Margot Kidder makes a brief appearance before being sent on vacation for the whole
Yeah,
movie. So
yeah,
Superman gets a secondary love interest who is, I think, established in the comics as sort of an old beau from um
yeah.
his
Lana
Smallville
Lang.
days.
Yeah, we saw
Yeah.
Lana in the first film briefly.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So here
But yeah,
also
we even have
it's
like
more of a
the
film involving Richard Pryor, uh, getting
yeah.
involved in places that he doesn't want to be involved in. So,
Yeah, because Richard Pryor had said
mm,
that he would have been interested in doing a Superman movie. So the producers saw that interview that he gave and said, "Hey, let's put him in a Superman movie." And yeah, they just kind of this is for large sections of it just kind of a Richard Pryor comedy of errors
yeah,
where he plays this computer programmer who is like really good at computer programming and really bad at everything
but
else.
he's
And
not
he
really
gets
even
involved in
good
this
at
scheme.
computer programming. He's like pushing buttons, and somehow the buttons are doing
Yeah.
exactly these things. Richard Pryor, he said that he wanted to be in a serious role in this film, but then the studio just wanted to harping on his like comedic side. So it's a weird film. Like the comedy goes out there for
Yeah.
reasons. Uh,
It's,
I mean, some of the comedy is
I gotta be
fine.
honest though, like
Yeah.
for me, like I rewatched all of these recently for the upcoming James Gunn film just because I hadn't seen these since I was a kid. And I'd
Right.
actually never seen Superman 4, which we'll get to soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, I went into the first two with very high expectations and left a little bit disappointed. This
Hmm.
one I went into with very, very low expectations and I actually found it like fun. Like the comedy is very stupid,
Yeah.
but I was laughing at
Sure.
it. Like when Richard Pryor skis off the building and then just like He falls through an
Lands.
awning, so he's okay, and then he just lands on the street. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It is. I do find it very funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Here we're introduced to like
it,
evil quote unquote red kryptonite Superman.
yeah. Which that stuff is fun.
Yeah.
I did fall asleep briefly for parts of those scenes, so
Oh.
which I fall asleep sometimes when watching stuff, often when watching stuff. Um, but no, I do find, like, I know people complain about the effects here. I do think there are some very good effects shots here.
Yeah.
And the stuff with, to Christopher Reeves is fun, and we're seeing sort of his Superman persona versus his Clark Kent persona, or like a um evil version of his. Although
Yeah.
he's not like evil, he's more just like
Drunk
trickster.
or
Like
something.
he's
Yeah.
not doing horrible stuff. He's just like messing with people in very like simple ways, or like he steals the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Then he fixes the Leaning Tower of Pisa. um,
Yes, yes, that's one of those bits that is like, I find it funny.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
dumb, but I find it funny.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. It is fun. I don't take it seriously as the other two, but yeah, it's still a fun one to watch. It's still enjoyable. Uh, but then
Yeah, that
yeah,
leads into
yeah,
Superman 4, The
yeah.
Quest for Peace.
Oof.
This one was, so there was, I forget all of the stuff involved here, but the producers who had the rights to make Superman movies actually sold the rights to a different studio.
Correct. Yeah.
As like it was the same studio that did Flash Gordon, I think, the same year.
Mm.
Um, and so they didn't have the same budget for this one. And we also had Christopher Reeve after Superman 3 was very disappointed in how that turned out, and so he wanted to have a little bit more say in the story here. So he was sort of coming up with the idea for the story here, and this sort of dealing with nuclear disarmament as this important thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a very infamous movie for those reasons.
Yeah, but I love the premise. I think the quest for peace, Superman's involvement in nuclear power, is a fantastic premise. That I wish they
Yes,
leaned.
I agree.
I wish they leaned so far into it because it starts out pretty good, and then they just decided, you know what, we need a bad guy, so here's Atomic Man and Lex Luthor again to just derail any good theming that we have here, and it's just not as great. It's just a lot
Yeah.
of bad decisions.
It starts out so well and then just kind of goes off the rails. I will say that this is the shortest of the Superman of this era of Superman movies, and I did appreciate that. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of complexity hinted at
Hmm.
early on that just doesn't really come to fruition. We do have the return of Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, which surprised me. I was not expecting that, not having seen this before. And just being like, oh yeah, well of course he did Superman 2 and then was done with the series. But no, he comes back here and is fun. He has some fun stuff. And then yeah, once Nuclear Man shows up, then it just kind of a long action sequence
Yeah,
that doesn't really mean anything.
with more questionable power sets and lower budgeted fighting.
Yeah, the effects work here is not up to par.
A lot of like reused footage from earlier films to get by.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they had the seed of a really good idea,
Mm-hmm.
but for budget and script reasons, weren't really able to bring that to
Yeah.
fruition.
Then the same studio, I don't have it listed here, would later or around the same time make a Supergirl film with Helen Slater. Did you watch that one?
I have not seen that one. No.
Okay, it
And yeah, that
is
was
weird.
3 years prior. Yeah,
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 it's a little weird in its own way as well. But like they were hoping for a fifth Superman film that would like cross over with Supergirl, and that never came to fruition for reasons, which maybe that was a good
yeah,
idea, but I don't know. I maybe would have liked to see those two characters together. But anyway, moving on.
yeah, yeah. One of the was this the highest grossing film at the point of its release?
Perhaps.
It
Yeah.
was up there.
Yeah.
Tim Burton's Batman. This is coming just a couple years after Quest for Peace, actually.
Hmm.
It kind of hit the reset button on the superhero genre as a whole.
Yeah.
Sort of the way that the Superman movies have been getting campier and sillier. Suddenly, Tim Burton comes in with this take on Batman that is, for the time, extremely dark.
Yeah. And the return of Batmania and like
Yes.
cultural appreciation for comic book stuff as well. At least for a bit.
Yeah.
It came and went until somewhere in mid 2000s where it's like, you know what? There's something here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think until basically the Dark Knight, it's back and forth.
yeah,
And then at that point, it has kind of stuck around. So I would say it's still up and down, depending on the year.
sure, yeah, depending. But yeah, Tim Burton Batman. It was a Batman movie that I did not knew existed. Uh, as a kid, all I knew was like, oh, I knew the cartoons, I knew the '60s show, and then I knew the Nolan stuff. And then I moved to the States on furlough in 2010, and like there was like that 4 DVD thing of different Batman movies, and I'm like, what? There's older Batman films? What is this? And so that was like a fun watch through these films. But yeah, Burton Batman, really cool, great gothic style. I think Burton was a pretty good choice at doing this dark style. Um, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, um, really fun performance. Yeah, maybe my favorite live action depiction of Joker in his
Okay.
in how I would find like a more ideal form. Um,
Yeah.
you know, he's that I want more of that comic booky prankster along with what we later get. I want a good mixture of the two that we quite haven't had yet. So, yeah,
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've only seen this one once. I think just because there's other Batman movies, which we'll be getting to shortly, that tend to gravitate towards a bit more.
sure.
Um, but yeah, this was such a monumental film, and just it's the way it brought comic books to life in a way that really hadn't been done before, even with Superman. They're building this world of Gotham, and yeah, it just feels very instantly iconic. And I mean, the soundtrack for this, phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
iconic. Everyone knows the Batman theme from this.
Hopefully, yeah. It's
It,
this theme is iconic for Batman as the Williams score is for Superman.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Which influences Batman the Animated Series, which having like similar style music and almost visually inspired a lot of elements in the first episodes of the show at least. So we owe a lot to this film, more than you know, for
yeah,
Batman.
yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah. The
although
follow up to
you
this one, Batman
personally
Returns.
like
Oh,
this
yeah,
one more, I think.
yeah, yeah. No, this is so. Batman was such a huge success that Tim Burton kind of got a little bit more leeway than he might have otherwise gotten on the sequel here. And the result is a movie that was controversial at the time for how dark it is, and I think kind of remains controversial. This is a very weird and adult movie in a way that the superhero genre doesn't tend to be. And yeah, I just it really speaks to me. The sort of there's sort of two modes that Batman tends to be um in general in movies. He's either sort of dark and brooding or a weirdo. And this is fully embracing the weirdo side of things. We also get Catwoman and the Penguin, played by Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. You could probably figure out which one of them plays which character.
Yeah.
Just as these like freaky little people who are interacting with this very weirdo version of Batman. And oh yeah, it just out it is so big and weird and wild and dark, and yeah, it's just I love it so much. This is one of those that I will revisit often around Christmas time, since it does take place at Christmas. This is like this little weird movie that is kind of technically a Christmas movie, but also very different from other Christmas movies that I'm watching around the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is very dark. It's still a lot of fun too. This one, Paul Rubens plays Penguin's dad in like a small cameo. And then whenever they did the Gotham TV show,
Yeah.
they brought back Paul Rubens to play the Penguin's dad, and it's like, oh,
Oh,
that's a really fun thing.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was watching that at the time. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Paul Rubens. It's Pee Wee Herman. Oh, he's Penguin's dad, and it was fun. Yeah, a lot of fun action stuff. Pretty silly. This is a film. It is. I think, yeah. I don't know what to say. You said it all.
It's a weird one, which is what I love about it.
It's a weird one, but it's one I could still take seriously along with the first one. It doesn't quite go far over the top quite yet. Which then we get into
that's up.
Yeah.
Oh, Batman Forever. The Joel Schumacher Batman's here. So yeah, this was sort of, Warner Brothers after Batman Returns, and sort of the audience response to that was worried about, parents not bringing their kids to these movies or not buying toys. So they brought in Joel Schumacher to make two very toyetic Batman movies.
Yeah. And also bringing back some of the lighthearted campiness of the Adam West era, mixed with the very dark and gothic Tim Burton aesthetic, which leaves us these two interesting films. Like, it is hard to like take seriously or even enjoy wackily because of the tones that they're trying to do here. But it's still entertaining. I still have a fun time with this one. Here we have Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and then Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I'd say that Two-Face is probably miscast, because Tommy Lee Jones is not... I don't know what he's doing, but he ain't doing Two-Face, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is a wild movie. There's some very weird performances here. Val Kilmer's just a little bit out of his depth as Batman.
Sure, yeah. There are like
Jim Carrey's probably way to it.
Yeah, like there's still like some solid stuff here, like a couple things.
Yeah,
but it's overshadowed by this weird thing. Also, we have like 30-year-old man playing a young Robin here.
Yeah, no, Batman or Bruce Wayne just straight up adopts a fully grown man. Like, you look at Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell, and you're like, these two people are like 5 years apart at most. I don't know what their actual age difference is, but yeah, they look like they're both in their like Val Kilmer is 30 and Chris O'Donnell is 25.
Sure.
Why is Bruce Wayne adopting this fully grown man?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. And I mean, Robin, if you want Robin, he's here.
Yeah,
I mean, he has a
this
decent
is
revenge story ish.
yeah, it's it's fine. This is our only live action Robin,
Yeah,
if I'm
this
not
is
mistaken.
uh after since yeah, it's the first live action Robin since Burt Ward, and then we
Oh
ha
yeah, yeah.
we haven't had a theatrical released film Robin ever since this. The only other Robin we've
Yeah.
gotten is from the Titans TV show, and you know, you
Which
know,
that has actually multiple Robins because I was just watching clips
yes,
from that.
yes, that
Um
one has the Dick Grayson, and then also the Jason Todd
and
and
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake in the later seasons. Yeah, so
Yeah, that I was watching the Tim Drake scene, so that's why I know that.
yeah,
Um
yeah,
but yeah, no, it is weird that like this is one of the most iconic comic book characters. And in an era where every iconic comic book character and a lot of not super iconic comic book characters are getting their film interpretations, it's weird that we haven't had another Robin.
yeah.
I'm crossing my fingers that the next Robert Pattinson Batman brings in a Robin of some sort.
I know
But
that the next Batman in the DCU is supposed to have a Robin. Although, if they do, I think they're probably gonna go with Damian Wayne. So we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see.
we've had this tough discussion before. But who's your Robin?
Uh it depends on what we're looking at. I If we're just talking about like Robins in general, I like the original Dick Grayson. He's simple and fun. I
Okay.
think in terms of like versions of the character in animation, it either be from the Teen Titans, the Young Justice, or from BTAS. So yeah, because
Okay.
there is not a lot of versions of the other characters all that much. It's mostly always just
Yeah.
Dick Grayson. So there are some, but they're not as prominently showcased. Like Damien has had several films, and poor
Yeah.
Jason has one big film, and then he's like a couple seasons in Titans, and then Tim Drake. Uh, I don't think there's been like an accurate depiction of Tim Drake, except maybe in Titans. Because
Yeah.
in BTAS,
Which Tim Drake is my favorite, but
yeah, BTAS Tim
Tim
Drake is
Drake is
pretty
the
much
least
just
interesting of
Jason
the
Todd.
Robin.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I do feel like and then Damian Wayne is very interesting, but he hasn't been around as long. So that kind of makes sense that those are the versions that are most popular.
sure. hmm But you can blame these films for, not having any more depictions of Robin because they're too goofy, I guess, for Hollywood. Speaking
Yeah,
of which,
yeah,
speaking of goofy in
yeah.
Hollywood,
This does like, I mean, Batman and Robin. Yeah,
I I can enjoy
yeah. And
it
this
for it being goofy.
Superman 4 Quest for Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Clooney is Batman in this one.
Right, we're talking over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Batman and Robin. It's weird. It's fun. Um, yeah, I don't know. It is a not great movie, but there is fun to be had.
Yeah, I
You
watch
were
it.
saying Clooney as Batman.
Yeah, I watch it not taking it seriously. Clooney is Batman here. He has no distinction between Batman and Bruce Wayne here. They're both the same character. Um, I can kind of buy the relationship between Clooney and O'Donnell, them being a little separated by age more than Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one has a lot of weird stuff in it that I don't know, just odd choices. This also has our last live action depiction of Batgirl
Yeah.
in film. We were supposed to get a new Batgirl film, but that never came. That whole thing
I
happened.
kind of hope that eventually, but yeah, I don't have any hope for that because who knows? Who knows what's up with.
Yeah, even in like the TV shows outside of animation, we haven't had Batgirl. We've had Oracle, plenty of Oracle, but for some reason we just can't do Batgirl. Which there's probably copyright. There's definitely bat embargo reasons for not doing that, but still.
Yeah, it's too bad because she is an interesting character in how she fits into the whole Batman mythos. Yeah, I kind of weird that this is the one theatrical interpretation of the character, or at least live theatrical interpretation of the character.
Yeah, we have like the '60s Batgirl, and then we have this Batgirl, and then we don't have any more Batgirls after this. We have plenty of animation
Yeah.
variants, of course, and they're all great, but for some reason, we can't do Batgirl in live action anymore.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it is just the difference between sort of Batgirl and Batwoman. If they're more likely to go for Batwoman than Batgirl in general,
I don't know. Again, there's
just like
probably
name
rights
wise.
rights issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm less familiar with the behind the scenes and that stuff, but
Yeah,
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I don't know. There's probably reasons why we haven't been getting Batgirl outside of tax write-offs, but still. Yeah. Moving on.
No, but before we get on to Superman Returns, I did want to point out I have a list up on Letterboxd of all of the DC films, including one that hasn't been included here that I think is worth shouting out just very briefly, which is the Sam Mendes film Road to Perdition,
Oh, well,
starring Tom Hanks.
sure. Yeah. That's like a different section of DC. There's a few
Yeah,
films
sort
under
of
that road that
more,
have been included. Yep.
yeah. Just thought I'd shout that out as a
Sure.
very interesting film
Yeah.
with a very, very good soundtrack.
Yeah. Starring Tom Hanks in a role that we typically never see him in, so that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep. I guess. Are we good to move on, or do you want to continue with some more?
Or I guess we do because Catwoman also comes out here between um
Yeah.
Batman
I
and
have
Robin and Cat or
I have Catwoman in a
you have it
later
further down?
section. Yeah, it fit like much further
Okay,
down.
perfect.
Yeah, this was
Okay.
more for like the prominent theatrical releases. Um,
What Catwoman isn't prominent enough for you? We'll get to that later.
prominent. Yeah,
It's bad.
you get what I mean. Prominent
Yeah,
slash
yeah,
rememberable ones that people
yeah,
recommend.
yeah.
Yeah, that's for another live stream. We'll get to that to another live stream, if we get to that. Uh, Start talking about Superman. I'm going to the restroom.
Okay, yeah, Superman Returns. This is after the success of his two X-Men movies, BC approached Bryan Singer, who we won't get into his personal life, but not a good person, but an interesting director, interesting filmmaker. They tap into attempt a Superman movie, and this was, I mean, since Superman for the Quest for Peace, DC had been trying to figure out what to do with Superman as a character, and different people were bringing in different ideas. At one point, Tim Burton comes in with this idea for a Nick, I think it was Tim Burton, maybe it was someone else, but Nick Cage as Superman, sort of this darker interpretation, kind of moving away from the perception of Superman as this um more inspirational figure, or like the campiness even of the character. And yeah, um Bryan Singer comes in and is like, hey, what if we just make a sequel to the two Richard Donner films? This is actually when they release a recut version of Superman 2 that more accurately fits with Donner's original vision for it. Um, yeah, this is what we get out of it. Superman Returns, sort of this. It is very much going for the tone of the Donner films. It is not quite a sequel, but kind of, sort
It's
of in that
it's
same world.
it's like a weird alternate version of that same world.
Yeah. It is contemporary, but in a way that feels closer to the 70s and 80s than the modern world. Like they have cell phones, but it is still very much that older style, older approach to things.
Yeah. Um which I think if I view it as a sequel, it just doesn't work for me. But if I view it as its own little standalone
Okay.
thing, it works better, but it's still I find it boring at a lot of points. But there's still like a lot of pretty good stuff that's
Yeah.
done here. So,
I really like the airplane rescue sequence that happens pretty early on.
yeah. Yeah.
Just an incredible set piece that then the rest of the movie never quite lives up to.
No.
Just kind of meanders along for the rest of it.
Yeah. And then we get into like the third act with Lex Luthor doing more real estate schemes.
Which, yeah, that stuff doesn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
I was interested in this, sort of rewatching it again. I hadn't seen this since I was a kid. But I recently, like in the last few years, rewatched the Bryan Singer X-Men movies. And for all of the, like, I mean, he's not a good person. We'll just put it that way briefly.
Yeah.
But he is a very fascinating filmmaker. So I was like, oh, I'm very curious to see what his take on Superman is. And I was kind of bored by it, to be honest.
Yeah. Even back then when this came out, this wasn't my favorite Superman film. Um for some reason like they just muted the color red so much in this to like it's more of like a brownish red. And like other costume stuff,
Gotta be dark and brooding.
dark and broody. That S cannot just be like a simple thing. It has to like come out like some sort of weird. I don't know. I don't know. It's really textured, and it's so thick. Um, yeah. Then there's Brandon Ruth who tries his best to do a performance of Christopher Reeve, and he does a really good job for the most part, but it doesn't quite feel like a natural performance some of the times. But he's pretty good overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a role that isn't doing him a ton of favors as an actor.
No.
I think he has been better in other things.
Yeah, he's had a lot of second chances, especially Arrowverse stuff to like shine. And you get another chance to do a Superman in the
Yeah.
Crisis crossover event there, so that was fun to see.
Okay.
The more you know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I need to watch that at some point, though. I think that involves watching most of the Arrowverse, which is I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah, watching a bunch of lackluster projects. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's another. That's the next read.
Yeah.
I like the Arrowverse for the most part. Yeah, moving on. Moving on, we get to the big three, I guess. Big three, quote unquote.
Yeah, the Nolan trilogy here, which Batman Begins actually came out the year before Superman Returns,
It did,
but
yes.
has sort of a, Superman Returns doesn't get a trilogy to go along with.
No, it does not. But yeah, Batman Begins. Uh, Before we start talking, just gotta say, hey, shout out to the Binging Barbie podcast. Uh, we have done
Yeah.
episodes on not only these three Batman films, but also the rest of Nolan's filmography. So, want to hear us in a more in-depth discussion on these films? Check it out, and maybe look out for other stuff. We'll see. But yeah, Batman Begins.
Yeah. This is a very different interpretation of Batman. This sort of feels like it is fully doing what a lot of other comic book films have attempted to do, which is, Batman and Robin, this weird, big, campy, silly thing that doesn't quite work and kind of dents the reputation of Batman in a way. And so Christopher Nolan comes in and just completely goes in the other direction, but in a way that's very, very successful. This is a much more grounded interpretation of the character, a much darker interpretation of the character.
Tries to be
Like,
more
yeah,
quote,
this
unquote,
is a
realistic.
Batman that exists. Yeah. Yeah, this is a Batman that you can't quite imagine a Superman existing in this same world,
Mm-hmm.
especially once we get into the sequels. I think this first one still has a bit of that sort of comic book stuff. There's sort of this weird hallucinogenic flower thing and the stuff going on with the League of Shadows.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is very grounded in human emotion and in human drama.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really like this one.
Yeah, this one's very much inspired by the Batman Year One comic. Just taking a lot of elements from it, like Commissioner Gordon, and just Batman building up his costume and such. I enjoy this. I was old enough to watch this when it came out, so I talked more about this experience in like our podcast, Name It Brackets podcast, which is another podcast I'm gonna point you to. We do podcasts here on this channel. So
Yep.
yep. If you want to hear more about that story, go check that out. But yeah, no, this was like another Batman that I enjoyed while growing up, but it's really the next film that like really got me hooked on this Batman. Which
Yeah, it's interesting because Batman Begins wasn't, and I think this is important to note, wasn't like a huge runaway success. It only made $356 million at the box office, which is impressive,
mm-hmm.
but that's not as much money as they were maybe hoping for. But Warner Brothers believed in Christopher Nolan enough that they were like, hey, let's actually, give him space to do more. Right. I mean, this is the superhero movie of the 2000s.
Yeah. Maybe even of the 21st century.
Sort of the.
We'll see.
Yeah, it got people to take comic book movies seriously in a way that really hadn't been the case ever before.
Yeah, and you also had like this along with Iron Man, which also came out this year. So
Yeah.
Two very good adaptations of the character. I like this one. It's one of my favorite Nolan films. It's one of my favorite Batman films. A lot of great performances. They're not the most they're not what I point to as like the golden standard of the character, but they're just fantastically well done in the specific version they're trying to do in this film. So we have Heath Ledger as the Joker here, um, in a fantastic performance.
Yeah, very very iconic performance
Yeah.
here that has stood the test of time. Some unfortunate tragedy in real life related to that performance.
Yes. But each
But
scene
yeah,
that
no,
he's
this
involved
is
in is very much engaging.
yeah, yeah. This is just. I mean, it's a very fascinating film and one that, like, yeah, without this, as much as Iron Man is also a very important piece in this puzzle, but I don't think without The Dark Knight we would be where we are right now with superhero movies
Yeah.
being as sort of big and popular as they are. And there are upsides and downsides to that. But this is a very important film in that, and kind of stands above most of the rest of its peers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And after the success
Yeah,
this
this is
one,
one that is in my top four Batmans.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess like in live action, this is probably my number one. But yeah, uh, this had another film to end the sequel, the trilogy, the Nolan trilogy, and that was The Dark Knight
Yeah.
Rises, which had to somewhat pivot around the death of Heath Ledger to close off this trilogy. Um, and that's this film.
Yeah, this one's a bit messier than The Dark Knight and even than Batman Begins.
Yeah.
It's very big and very epic, and it's trying to do a lot of things, and I don't think it's fully succeeding at doing all of them, but it is still very, very interesting. You kind of get the sense that Christopher Nolan is a little bit over making these Batman movies. But he brings something to this one, and it has some very interesting ideas that it is playing around with. This is also like there's some weirdness and silliness, and not intentional silliness, just some of the performances
Yeah, Tom Hardy
are a little off.
as Bane is very memeable, especially back when it came out.
Yes, and Marion Cotillard has, not to spoil anything, but a very memorable final scene in this movie,
Yeah,
and not for the right reasons.
correct. Yeah. I mean, again, listen closely to our podcast on bitching Barbie on this episode. We talked more in depth about it. Um, I wasn't a big fan of it when it came out. I still really enjoy it. I still think it's a mostly well-made product, but it's not. It doesn't like hold up to me as well as the other two, at least in my opinion. But it's still a fun one that has some really
Yeah,
great moments in it. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and it is the success of this allows Nolan to then go on to other more interesting projects,
Oh yeah. Yep.
which aren't DC related, but
Nope.
is worth noting.
Yeah. Again, listen to Binging Barbie to get those thoughts in those films. Um, did you get to see the teaser for the
Yep.
Odyssey?
Yes, I did. I have seen the teaser for the Odyssey, and oh, I have a story. Okay, I can tell the story about this. So, I live near one of the few theaters in the US that is showing IMAX film, like actual film. And they put out tickets on sale for the Odyssey a few weeks ago for a movie that is coming out a year from now. Um, so I was like, "Oh, I'll pick up my ticket. That should be fine. I don't know when they're going on sale." So I woke up at like 8 and I was like, "Oh, I'll check and see if the tickets are out yet." Sold out. All four screenings that they put up sold out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am I and it sounds like there was maybe a bunch of scalpers taking tickets, which is just sad.
Yeah.
Like, But yeah, I mean they'll be adding more showtimes when it gets closer. And I'm keeping checking back to see if anyone refunds their ticket and I can quick pick up a good seat. But
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, I am excited for the Odyssey.
Yeah. I remember. So I saw the trailer because it played in front of Jurassic World Rebirth, and I guess I forgot that
Yeah.
that was maybe happening or something. Because we went to me and my mom, we went and saw Jurassic World Rebirth, but like there was like so many trailers that there's usually like a lot of trailers that play in front of films, but there were so many trailers this specific day. And then they start playing like at the theater logo. Then I'm like, okay, yeah, we're ready to start the action movie. And then they start playing another trailer, and I'm like, what the heck? I thought we were ready. And then the Syncope logo shows up. What's
Syncope, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Syncope logo shows up, and I'm like,
Syncope,
oh,
yeah.
I know what this is. And then the lights go down. The lights also went down as well, which led me to believe that we were starting the film. That's
Yeah.
why the trailer comes in. I'm like, what? Why are we doing this? Yeah, the Syncope logo comes in. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the Odyssey teaser. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Got to see it again in the Superman film. So,
Yep, that's where I saw it. I saw it at IMAX,
ooh, yes.
which
Which?
yeah, I had a similar experience with I went for the Avatar trailer because I knew it was supposed to be played in front of it. And we see the trailers and the studio doing the film actually gets the last two trailer spots before the start of the film. Um so they play the Predator Badlands trailer and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's coming out soon. That's a new one, but obviously they're gonna do the Avatar. Then they play the Tron Ares trailer. I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That's Disney again. And I was part of me in the back of my head is like, oh, I hope those aren't the two. I hope they still play the Avatar trailer. Then the lights go down and the studio or the like cinema logo shows up, which is what they play right before the movie. And I'm like, oh man, they're doing the Avatar trailer. But then they did do the Avatar trailer, so I was happy.
Yeah, it's a weird. I don't know why they did that, but it added to like the importance of the trailer, I guess, because I was ready for something.
I think, yeah, I think it's like they're baking it into the actual like movie like file that they're playing.
Okay.
Because the idea I think is that it's supposed to be exclusive in front of like it was supposed to be exclusive in front of Jurassic World for a week and then it was any other movie could have it. And I think it's the same with Avatar, though it might not be. I don't know that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, why
Yeah,
don't
that's not
we
not anything we need to get into.
move on to the other DC director that we'll be talking about for the next few,
Yeah.
with Zack Snyder's
Yeah,
depiction of
this
Watchmen.
is yeah. I promise not to harp too much on things that you like and I don't like. So I won't say too much on this besides that as someone who read the comic book and didn't understand the comic book when I initially read it, and the first time I watched this film, I liked it because I hadn't really understood the comic book. Um, but now having like gone back and reread the comic book and listened to people talk about the comic book, watching this movie, I just it misses so much and misunderstands so much and misrepresents so much that I don't really like it. It is very visually good though.
Mm, yeah, that's my take on Snyder as well. He does a lot of visually cool stuff, especially when he's visually taking and trying to recreate comic book panels. I think it does a good job. But yeah, a lot of stuff, important stuff, gets lost in translation, and stuff becomes cooler than what they should be. Um, I still enjoy this regardless of the missteps. I can always look at different versions. I've seen different versions of this film, so this isn't the only one. There's like a couple animated films. There's the graphic. Uh, there's there's the original graphic novel, but then there's just like the motion comic of the graphic novel. So all the different
Yeah.
versions that you can watch. This is not the only one, but this is the only live action one that does a solid job visualizing a lot of things. Again, it's just the deeper meaning gets lost as well. But yeah, no. Moving on to this one. Poor old Green Lantern.
Yeah, this is so DC had a big problem, which is that Marvel, specifically the Marvel Studios, which was with Paramount and then moved over to Disney, um they released Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, and those two movies were connected. And then they started building up towards a big team up movie. And suddenly DC was in this position of their only superhero movies on the board right now is a Batman movie, and Christopher Nolan is absolutely not going to let that version of Batman exist in the same world as the Justice League. So they need to figure something out. Um, and this Green Lantern is maybe a part of them trying to do that, but this goes horribly wrong for them. Um, yeah, it's I haven't seen it since I was a kid. So I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I mean, I haven't felt the need to see it since I was a kid. This is just a movie that doesn't quite work.
No. No, it's a shame. Like, overall, it does a decent job at telling the origin of this version of the Green Lantern and its overall lore and such, but it just isn't the most interesting depiction of Green Lantern. And then there's also just the VFX that just weren't up to par as it probably should have been for this, so it's just this
Yeah.
underwhelming thing. Uh yeah, I don't think it's horrible. I don't really care to really rewatch it a whole lot. There are other versions of Green Lantern I think do it better, but yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's a
this is
shame.
one of those. I do wonder if not for the CG suit, I wonder if people might have responded a little bit more kindly to this. But this is also like at this point, even superhero origin stories are starting to feel a little played out.
Hmm.
And Green Lantern like has an interesting story, but not thing that is going to get people super excited to watch him figure that out. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah, it just kind of has a lot of problems that it can't quite solve.
mhm. Yeah, this film also kind of ruins the studio's understanding of the character, so that like they didn't want to touch anything Green Lantern related for like the next decade and a half until finally
Yeah.
in our most recent Superman film we have a Green Lantern. So
Yeah. Which I mean, he is such or like the Green Lantern characters in general, because there are multiple of them.
right.
Um are multiple different versions that show up at different times. But like the powers are so interesting and can be so fun and unique. Part of that is that you need a pretty big budget if you're going to do Green Lantern justice. Yeah, it is a shame that we haven't gotten a big theatrical version of this character until now. However many years later. This is 14 years later.
Oh yeah, 14 years later. That is for sure. Um we're getting a TV show, I think, at some point,
Okay.
an HBO
Yeah,
Max
yeah, we're
feature.
getting the lanterns, which I heard is supposed to be more of like a detective story.
Which makes
I don't
sense.
know. That's just the rumor I've
They're
heard.
space cops, so
Okay.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Hopefully, the detective
Yeah, that
story's in
that yeah.
space and they're doing alien stuff and not just we're on Earth. We're gonna do detective for like a normal Earth crime or something, like a CW show would. So we'll see what they do. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's
My
good.
guess is it's going to be set on Earth for budget reasons, but hopefully they
Yeah,
have some
yeah,
space stuff.
yeah. The space stuff is gonna be like on some rock quarry in Vancouver. So, uh,
I mean, where else are you gonna recreate space?
yep, recreating space. All right. Uh, we were just mentioning Superman, so why don't we move on to the beginning of the DCEU, which is gonna be the focus for the next few films. I say, the next decade of films. So, with Man of Steel,
Yeah,
let's not anger anyone.
yeah. This is interesting development wise because every once in a while DC will bring in a director to do a different type of movie and be like, "Hey, do you want to try Superman?" Um, and director will usually say, "No, I don't know if I have a handle on Superman." This happened with James Gunn more recently, but of course it did happen with Zack Snyder after he made Watchmen. DC was like, "Hey, want to do Superman?" And he was like, "I don't know if I know how to do that." But then something changed, and he decided to sign on for Man of Steel, which, yeah, it's interesting. This is an attempt to take the sort of darker tone that was established in the Dark Knight trilogy, and actually Christopher Nolan has a story writing credit on this one, um, and turn it into something that is plausible within a universe that will eventually have the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Which, okay, I'll say my piece on this. I don't hate this movie. It has a lot of problems, and a lot of those go back to the tone. This just doesn't feel like a Superman movie to me in a way that is a little bit disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
It is also like I actually like the first maybe hour and a half of this, but then the last hour of this is one very, very long battle sequence that gets very old very quickly.
Yeah, sure. It can get exhausting, yeah. I didn't love this film when it first came out. Because I grew up with like the more lighthearted Superman, and so this film just did the exact opposite with Superman. I was like, what? And I didn't love his costume at the time. Since I've
Yeah.
grown up and rewatched it a few times, it grows with me, but I'm still not in love with it. I think it does a really good job in like its action, because now Superman could like do fast-paced action, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the story's not my favorite. Um, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's another Superman.
David S. Goyer is only really as good as his co-writers are in general, depending. But he has written some very good films and some very bad films, and this is not an example of one of the very good films that he has written.
Yeah,
Like he did Batman Begins, and he also did the Blade trilogy, which is two good movies and a very, very bad movie.
yeah. Um, this one introduces us to Henry Cavill as Superman, who probably gets the short end of the stick a lot of times, because I don't think he quite got the Superman that he probably would have worked really well with. Because he does match the physique pretty
Yeah.
well. Um,
Yeah, this is not a version of the character that is super exciting to play, I imagine.
yeah,
This is a very toned down, very interior.
sure.
And there's stuff of that I like, but yeah, this is a version of if Superman has sort of two extremes because he is both sort of a human and this sort of space alien all powerful being. this one definitely skews a whole lot more towards the super powerful, all powerful being who is above
Mm-hmm.
humanity, and less on the human side of things,
Sure.
which I tend to gravitate more towards Superman that are more on the human side of things. I think that's also one of my problems with Superman Returns is it puts the needle a bit too far in the other direction.
Yeah. 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 It also just really depends on what type of Superman you're looking for. If you're looking for like this type of Superman, then
Yeah.
this is up your alley. But for me at least, this just wasn't what I was looking for in Superman, so I didn't quite like this film as much. Um until the next
You
film came
know,
around.
okay. You know what I was thinking of that really helped me recontextualize sort of my thoughts on this Superman. In contrast to the James Gunn Superman, which is very much a response to this version, um, that this is a version of Superman, this Man of Steel version of Superman, is a Superman that they are already planning on turning evil. That is already a thing that they have in sight and are working towards as part of his arc. Whereas I think one of the things that the James Gunn film does very well is that that is not something that is apparent that is in their plans. So if he does turn evil, then that's more of a surprise. And if he doesn't, then that fits more with what we have seen thus far. But yeah, it feels like they're trying to justify in advance the
Mm-hmm.
sort of injustice arc that they're setting up for this character.
Yes, which Injustice, the video game, came out the same year as that film, so that you know, I guess that
Yeah, so
matches.
something in the I do think that is in the air at the time of like it's a less optimistic time and people are there is this
Yeah,
question of why
yeah,
would superheroes do good and not just become evil with their power.
yeah, and
um
like
this is not the version. Yeah,
the Superman in the comics, because at the time was the New 52 comics, and Superman was a bit more. He was a little darker, or just like I don't know how to describe him. He was
Rudy.
a little
Yeah.
broody, yeah, a little more stern, and not as happy and hopeful and like charming as what we've been getting for
Yeah.
the past several decades. So I guess there was a lot of that going on in the 2010s, especially around that time period. So um, yeah, but moving on to Batman v Superman, which you you and
Yeah.
I have multiple discussions about this film. We are on opposite ends. I like this
I've been
film.
since it came out.
Yeah. Huh?
Oh, we have been on opposite ends of this since it came out.
Yes. Yeah, there's multiple times in several different podcasts where one of us will bring this up and then like we each have to mention it's like, "Oh, I like this film. You think it's like a good art gallery," and that's about it. uh yeah, why don't you go first?
Okay, yeah, since I have the negative perspective, I'm just gonna pull from my most recent Letterboxd review from when I rewatched this a couple years ago. This is simultaneously 90 minutes too long and 90 minutes too short. Today I'm talking about the Ultimate Edition because that's the one I watched. Yeah, it's just a whole lot of mismatched ideas and mishandled themes and misunderstood characterizations. It spends hours trying to justify why Batman and Superman must fight, but doesn't really do much to like sell the emotions of
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, and this really runs into the problem of at this point, it has been 8 years since the first Iron Man, and there are already two Avengers movies. And this movie is tasked with not only being a sequel to Man of Steel, not only setting up Batman, not only setting up Wonder Woman, but setting up an entire cinematic universe and getting it to the point that it was ready for a Marvel type crossover. But it just like the foundation isn't quite there.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, it's just a very baffling. movie to me. It feels like it isn't getting anything right, and it spends so much time setting up things that I don't find particularly interesting and don't end up going anywhere because this universe eventually sort of collapses in on itself.
Yeah, yeah. In retrospect, it's like nothing that this film sets up comes to fruition. Even when we finally did get the Zack Snyder Justice League, it's still setting up things that doesn't come to fruition. But at the time, it was, for me at
Yeah.
least, it was very exciting to be like, oh, they're gonna be doing this. I enjoy a lot of this film. It was up my alley. I acknowledge that these aren't the best versions of these characters, but for what the story was trying to depict with these characters, I enjoyed it the way it is. This film made me like this version of Superman more than Man of Steel. Although the people who liked Man of Steel didn't really like this version of Superman because this film was kind of like a response to the collateral damage in Man of Steel. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it does Batman pretty cool visually again. His character personally, you know, is up to debate, but I understand the arc that the character was going on, but it's not very clear or fantastic, but I think sure. Yeah. I still enjoy it every time I rewatch it, but I don't point to this film and be like, here's our golden standard to how to depict these characters. But for
Yeah.
like an alternate version of these characters, I'd say, yeah, pretty cool. And speaking of
Oh yeah, this
like
gets followed
redirection,
up.
redirection, we
Yeah.
have 2016 Suicide Squad film, which
Oh yeah.
I think we both had uh, the same experience where when we first watched it, I think we enjoyed it, but every time we even thought about it, it was like, wait, no, this doesn't make sense. It's actually a bad film each time we watch it and think about it. So,
Yeah, I was very high on the trailer when I first saw it.
mm,
And there is fun to be had here. I think most of the fun is in the performances. Particularly Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, which I think we disagree a bit on this point, but I find her version of the character a lot of fun whenever she pops up in things. But yeah, overall, like the things that I liked about this when I first saw it don't hold up on a rewatch at all.
mm,
And the things that I dislike about it grow more and more. I've only seen it a handful of times, but it's not one that I'm ever clamoring to rewatch again. There's a whole lot of problems with it from a development standpoint of, David Ayer, the director, had a very specific idea of where he wanted the tone to be. And then the first trailer comes out and kind of misrepresents that tone in a little way and makes it look a little more fun than what they were actually going for. And it's so successful that then the studio actually has the trailer company recut the film to fit more with the trailer style. And the result is something that just is a complete mess from start to finish. Doesn't know what it wants to be or what it's doing. Yeah, it's just a very weird movie.
yeah.
I don't think I'm not one of the people who thinks that there's a David Ayer cut out there that is actually good. I
Well, good is like
don't particularly.
subjective, but more like unified.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that
More unified movie. I don't like Ayer as a director. I
sure.
haven't liked any of his other films, so I don't think that there is necessarily a better version of this out there. But yeah, this is just incoherent.
Yeah. Again, there's that one quote from this film that you mention a lot of the times.
Yes, Katana, um she's got my back. You could cut all of her. I wouldn't suggest get. You can look up the quote. You know the quote. But one of the interesting things, I'm reading my letterbox review here. we know 5 things about her character, or 6 things about her character, which is that she hates criminals. Her name is Katana. She's got Rick's back. She could cut everyone in half with a sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. And you shouldn't get killed by her because her sword traps the souls of its victims. None of these things come up in the rest of the movie.
Nope. Yeah,
None of these.
I
There is
find
no.
it weird why Katana is even in the Suicide Squad because she's not typically a member. She's not a.
I think it's just visually she's interesting, and they needed a visually interesting character here. I don't know.
I mean, I like Katana and everything else, but she showing up here was just like, what? Why is she here?
Yeah.
Um, I don't think this does a really good job at the Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad is not a group of
Yeah. Yeah.
anti-heroes or villains doing good deeds. It's supposed to be villains doing dark deeds, but for the government, which I think
Yeah.
Gunn does better for the first 2/3 of the film in his films. We'll get to that one, but yeah, I didn't love the third act in this film because it's like, oh, that's not at all what we're supposed to be doing. Anyway, enough of this one. We have next up we have Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Um, this is one that I really. This is the first of the DCEU that I think really nailed what it was going for the most part. I
Mm-hmm.
think the third act is a real problem here and kind of messes with things with the theming of the movie in a way that kind of undercuts it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first of the DCEU movies that made me excited for what was going on in the rest of the universe.
Sure. I think we saw
Like
this in theaters
that
together,
theme.
or we saw it as a
Yeah,
group. So
that Wonder Woman theme, when it hits, oh, it's just incredible. I remember being in the theater, and actually I saw this a handful of times in theaters because I saw it with my family, I saw it with you, and then I saw it at the university I was at. They did a special screening, and each time that theme hits, like the audience was just electric.
the
It's so
electric
good.
cello, yeah,
Yes, it
yes,
is incredible. It's a shame about that last act because everything else is so good leading up to it.
yeah. I don't mind. I didn't have as big as an issue with the last act as the others did. Um, it's just like some minor details here and there. I don't love its depiction of the first war, um, or even the big sacrifice of Steve Trevor. It's just like, oh, well, that doesn't really work for me. But for the most part, it does a really good job at setting up Wonder Woman in this world in a way
Yeah.
that maybe the sequel. We'll talk about the sequel. It's a weird. That's a film.
You know what this one does better than any other recent superhero movie I can think of is the dynamic between the two leads with sort of romantic undertones, where we have Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. Like their chemistry is just so good here. And we're getting some of those like screwball adjacent stuff that is very reminiscent of the Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve Superman
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um I love all of that stuff. That is what this film really executes on really well that I don't think is
Okay.
and yeah, that like none of the other movies, at least that we're going to discuss on this list, because Henry Cavill and Amy Adams are both very good actors, but they don't have much chemistry.
Yeah.
And even like, I really like James Gunn's Superman, and I think those actors both have really good. They they aren't quite at this level.
I have no comment there. I haven't noticed any of that, so don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, this leads into Justice League, another movie with a very tortured. You can really tell that Warner Brothers wasn't quite sure what they were doing. And so they kept switching tracks and trying to fix problems from the last movies, but by the time you get to the new movie, it has now caused new problems, and just the mismatch of tones here. This is Zack Snyder, and he was the director of this, and went on break, and then I don't know all the behind the scenes details. Maybe you can go into the behind the scenes details of what happened that led to the switch of directors.
Yeah, so Zack Snyder, he was doing this film, but then his daughter actually passed away, so he left the production to deal with that. And so Josh Whedon was brought in to finish the film and like do
So of
some.
course directed the first two Avengers movies.
Yes. And so he or the studio weren't quite on board with what Snyder had done before, so they reshot a bunch of different stuff, re-edited the film to like the 2 hours instead of Snyder's 4 hour cut, um, and we got this film, which I remember being really underwhelmed when I saw in the theaters. Um, I was like, oh, this is the film? Okay, well, alright. Um, yeah, why don't you talk about it for a sec?
Yeah, we did a podcast about this when it came out, I think,
I
and
think we did. I think
it
we enjoyed it generally, but
okay.
after
I don't know that I did. I'm
I
looking
don't
at my
I don't remember. I haven't listened to the episode since, but on rewatch and like thinking back, I definitely don't love it as much. Um, to me, I rewatched this to like compare it to the Snyder Cut, and we'll talk about the Snyder Cut next. But this is how I rewatch this film in comparison, because that's how I can enjoy it. By itself, it's not great, but when comparing it to something else, it's like, okay, that's fun.
so I actually have my letterboxd review from when I first, which I did think it was better than Batman v Superman at the time. I don't I would continue to think that, but maybe I would. Um I like that there is more humor, and like the team dynamic is actually kind of fun. Um but yeah, the tone is just so inconsistent, and there's not a ton of emotional weight to things, and certain characters get sidelined in weird ways. And there's also just like, and this makes a lot of sense knowing what we know about Joss Whedon now that we didn't at the time. But the way he treats and frames Wonder Woman specifically just feels very icky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which yeah, now we know more about Joss Whedon. It's like yeah, that makes sense with what we know about his personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, even at the time, that was something that was standing out to me. And yeah, I have since rewatched it. I think like you to compare it to the Snyder cut, and yeah, it just doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very truncated.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of scenes just kind of like happen and don't really have a beginning or end. Just kind of things happen. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
there was a
imagine I'll
lot of
rewatch
stuff that
this
was
version.
missing from the trailer. That was like, oh man, there's a lot missing from the trailer. None of Cyborg stuff is here. What's going on there? Or what happened to some of the Flash stuff? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Which I guess leads
but yeah, I
us
think that leads
to
into
the Zack
yeah.
Snyder Justice League, which came out several years later after big campaigns and actors talking about their production. So HBO Max gave us this film, and it's a much more unified vision. It's 4 hours long. Is it the best film ever? No, but I think I prefer it. I definitely prefer it over what we got in the theaters. So I think we did a podcast on this one as
Yeah,
well. I don't remember.
yeah, we must have because we watched it together, I think.
I, did we?
this is an exhausting movie. I think we did. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we did. I don't remember.
I don't think we did.
But yeah, this is so long. It is just interminable. Just keeps going. There's scenes that, and obviously, if this had been released theatrically, a lot of this stuff would have been cut down to a more manageable size. But yeah, there are scenes that just kind of go on endlessly. But a lot of the problems that are in the Joss Whedon version here are completely fixed. We have stronger characterizations, especially for Cyborg, who kind of like almost becomes a pseudo protagonist for parts of this in a way that's like really exciting and very fun.
This one has completely different
There's
problems,
a lot more development
than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it is like my issues with Batman v Superman. It's clear that Snyder was working to address them with this version. That he was adding in a bit more humor, a bit more lightheartedness, and taking the characters in a slightly different direction that was not nearly as dark and brooding, while still having a sort of serious edge to it. Yeah, it is unfortunate that, you know, DC hired Snyder to do their justice or their DC stuff, and they didn't let him see it through. And it is unfortunate that he didn't get the chance to see his vision through for this movie and expand the universe in a way that he had wanted to.
Sure. If the
I don't know
rumors for
that
the
his
sequel
version of the universe would have been
films
great, but
that have come out, if they are true, are a bit odd. There maybe would have been a love
yeah,
triangle between Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane. I don't.
which
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I also wonder how much of that stuff Snyder would have reassessed had he been given the chance to kind of, because this feels like a course correction from Batman v Superman. In a sense, it has a lot of elements from Batman v Superman still carrying over, much more than the Joss Whedon cut does. The Joss Whedon cut maybe kind of course corrects a little too far. But yeah, I do wonder if there is a version of Snyder's vision for the universe that would have been a little bit easier for audiences to engage with, while still being true to sort of his bigger overall vision. I don't miss that we didn't get Evil Superman. I mean, we get a little bit of it here, but yeah, I don't think the Injustice Superman arc is super interesting, so I'm not disappointed that we didn't get to see Zack Snyder's full vision for the DCEU. But this does, like, it is interesting in a way that, you know, when I think of Marvel MCU stuff, that doesn't tend to be this interesting.
sure. Yeah. It was interesting, like, to finally see this version of the film. Even getting to see like the setup, the stuff that we never got to see. Which, you know, I would have,
Yeah.
you know, been interesting to see what things would have looked like if things continued, but at this point, it's like almost been 10 years at this point, so
Yeah.
it's time to move on from. So
Yes, I very much agree with that.
yeah, it's a shame.
Oh, the
But it happens a
Oscar-winning
lot.
film.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
Flash entering the Speed Force.
Oscar winning or Oscar addressed film, not quite winning.
Yes, that's probably a better way to put it.
Yes. Oh no! Speaking.
Just remember watching the
speaking
Oscar
of
telecast.
Oscar winning, we forgot to mention Suicide Squad is an Oscar-winning film.
Yes, for best makeup, which is very deserved.
Yes.
It does have good makeup.
Yes.
But yeah,
Just
yeah.
a random thing for that not great film overall, but still good for them on the makeup department.
Yeah.
They did a good job. Yeah. Yeah. Moving on, we have
Mm.
Aquaman, which
Yeah, this one's fun.
it's fun. There's a weird disconnect between this and Aquaman's depiction in the Justice League, even the Justice League, because like things don't quite match. Like Mera does not match at all what was done in Justice League. Um, but yeah, it's a decent depiction of Aquaman's Throne of Atlantis origin, and it's fun, very fishy.
James Wan is such a fascinating director and filmmaker in general. Like what he has done, he's done so many different things. He started out in horror with the Saw films and The Conjuring and Insidious, and then like switches over to more action and blockbustery stuff, and then has more recently kind of combined the two. But yeah, no, this is like there's been a recent sort of trend of superhero movies that have been embracing sort of the wacky goofiness of the comics, and now they have the budget to do, big, weird, colorful stuff, sci-fi elements, and yeah, this just is one of the first examples of that
I
for
was
me really working out.
Yeah, I was so excited when we got to see Aquaman's yellow suit, like orange suit
Yeah,
costume in the trailer and the film. It's like, oh my gosh, they're not shying away from that classic look. They made it look cool for this version. Ah, it looks great. So
yeah. And there's even stuff like, I mean, there's an octopus that plays the drums, and there's um Judy or Julie Andrews as a kaiju. Like, it's very fun and comic booky and exciting, and yeah, this is obviously DC at this point is kind of spiraling and trying to figure out something that will work for their DC universe going forward, and so they're bringing in a sort of new tone here. But I think it really works, and I know this version of Aquaman is very different from the version in the comics,
sure.
but I think they really tailor the role well to Jason Momoa's persona
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's just a lot of fun to watch on screen.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the highest grossing DC film ever. Not
Is it?
adjusted for inflation, but yeah, because it made more than both the Dark Knight movies. And none of the other DCEU movies made over $1 billion, which this did.
Ah, well, which I think after this film, most of the films underperformed or pretty much bombed at the box office. Which
Yes.
I think half of that has to do with because COVID came in and kind of changed the theater landscape as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that leads
Yeah,
us
this is one
to
I think of fondly.
the next one then.
Shazam!
Shazam, which what do you think of Shazam? I don't know if I even know this. What do you think of Shazam?
I love Shazam. I love Shazam. I think it is phenomenal.
Hmm.
I need to rewatch it. But this is one of those movies that is kind of like going for a classic 1980s like Goonies type adventure with kids vibe. But what it actually really nails is sort of the weird mix of campy, fun, exciting stuff that you remember, and then also the darkness that you don't remember from those movies. Um yeah, it's just the mix of tones really works here. Of we're getting this exciting Shazam stuff, and it's silly and funny and sincere. Um, and then we're also getting some like darkness with the villain and Mark Strong showing up, and he melts some people, and yeah, I had so much fun with this, watching this in the theater, and have since seen it a couple times at home and really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And like the central story of this kid, this foster kid who is looking for his mom, the emotions of it just ring true so much, and this like how he connects to his foster family. um yeah, this is like s- might stealthily be one of my favorite superhero movies of all time.
Okay.
Like, I'd have to think about where on that list it would fall, but I do
Hmm.
really love this one.
Yeah. I don't know. This is one that I didn't love when it came out. For some reason, I was just so disinterested. Because I watched it with like my family on the TV when around the time period when it came to streaming, and I don't know. None of us really enjoyed the film for reasons I don't remember.
Okay.
Um, I think for me, my biggest issue was just the characterization of Shazam. Um, and this just comes from me uh, growing up with different interpretations. So coming to this film, it was like, oh, well, that's not at all what I know about Shazam. And for this being the first live action depiction since the 70s TV show, it's like, oh, well, people are getting the wrong idea about this character, but whatever. Yeah, whatever. It's enjoyable. I I rewatched it since and it was enjoyable on my rewatch. Um, and besides the characterization, it is a fun film. So yeah, that's my hot take.
The moment of Mark Strong as the evil villain is like floating in the sky above a city, and Shazam is, floating in a different part, blocks and blocks away, as you see in these superhero movies. And Mark Strong is giving his big evil speech about I'm gonna take over the whole world and I'm gonna kill everyone you care about. And then you just cut to Shazam. He's like, you hear Mark Strong's voice faintly in the distance, and he's like, "What? I can't hear you." That moment just sells me on this so much, that little like lampshading of things, but in a very different way than the way that like the Joss Whedon inspired Marvel stuff
Hmm.
does. Yeah,
I
I just this is so much
I
fun.
didn't
I
really
love
care
this
for the
film.
lamp shading or the comedy that much, so I get that's just me. Comedy doesn't quite work with me
Yeah, you.
a lot of the times for reasons I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
comedically minded in a writing sense, I guess. Um,
yeah.
which kind of leads to some of my issues for the next one. Which why don't you
Okay.
talk about your film here?
Yeah, Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Oh, I love this one so much. This era of DC was just batting, I don't even know, home runs with each one. I love them so much. Just again, I love this interpretation of Harley Quinn from Margot Robbie, and this just gives her the chance to shine in a whole movie. And I know people complain about it. The title is a little bit misleading. I think they even like retitled it for home release for some reason because people were mad that it's a Harley Quinn movie and not a Birds of Prey movie. I don't care. I had so much fun. This is structured sort of like a Guy Ritchie or like even Quentin Tarantino movie, and sort of early Tarantino. It's a little bit non-chronological. It's fast-paced thing, very snappy. There's a lot of narration going on. It's just so much fun. It has such a fun energy to it that every time I revisit it, I love it even more. The sequence in which Harley Quinn orders a breakfast sandwich, and the breakfast sandwich looks so good, and then just has this entire chase sequence where she is outrunning these various people trying to get her and trying to save her precious little breakfast sandwich, and then she drops it, and it is the biggest tragic moment in this film. Oh, I love it so much. um yeah, yeah, I don't know if I can quantify or better explain. I mean, yeah, so much fun, so much fun. The
Mm,
performance is so much fun.
yeah, and then there's me who does not like this film at all. I can respect it from like a filmmaking and standpoint. But when it comes to like the characters, for me, I really like the Birds of Prey as characters. But they are not those characters in this film. I think this film completely botches all these characters, which is such a shame because this is like going to be most people's introduction to these characters, and it's like, oh no, why? What are you doing? Oh no, Black Canary, Huntress, Montoya, what happened? Why is Cassandra Cain not Batgirl? Why is she just a random thief? Oh, what did you do with Black Mask? Where's his mask? The costumes look all bad.
Where's his mask? He wears his mask.
For, like, the end, he's supposed to wear the mask the entire time. That's why it's called Black Mask.
Well, why do you get Ewan McGregor if you're gonna hide his face for the whole movie? This is why. This is where you and I disagree. This is you love character continuity, and I hate character continuity. Too exaggerated. Obviously, that's not. That is an exaggeration of both our perspectives. But,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, this is gonna be the first theatrical depiction of these characters, but they're not great depictions in my personal opinion, and so I don't mind if this is like an alternate version of the characters that we already have established in some way, but I didn't love the way it was done here. And again, I don't really care for the comedy in this, or really anything, but yeah, you and we have different perspectives on this film. I don't care for it at all, and I'll leave it there. Don't want to rip anymore. Anyway,
yeah, I know this is a controversial one, but
sure.
I don't understand it. I think it is a delight.
Moving on.
Speaking of controversial,
yeah.
Wonder Woman 1984.
What did you think of this film?
So I have a theory about this, because this, of course, comes out peak COVID, December 2020. Theaters are mostly closed or open in like very limited capacities. And Warner Brothers has this idea, that controversial idea, don't have to get into it too much, but they decide to start releasing their films day and date on HBO Max, in theaters and on HBO Max. So this is a movie that a lot of people saw at home. But I have this sort of tradition kind of with my family, though they don't always join me in this, of the day before we open presents for Christmas, going to see a movie in the theaters. And it started out as like, oh, you're excited and having trouble like taking your mind off, oh, tomorrow we're doing presents. So it was a fun way to take my mind off of that, but it's something that I've continued to do even as I've kind of grown out of the phase of not being able to sleep before Christmas. So COVID, what are we going to do? And I came up with the brilliant idea of, hey, let's go and watch Wonder Woman at a drive-in theater. So I went, and my mom wasn't interested in doing it, so it was my dad and my sisters, and we went to see Wonder Woman in a drive-in. We brought blankets because it was cold, and had a great time watching it. It was just so much fun seeing it in the theater. Well, not theater, but a drive-in theater. Had a great time with it. And then got home, and my mom had actually watched it simultaneously to us at home. And she did not like it at all. And I think part of that is, this is a movie that if you are watching it with any potential for distraction, you will be taken out of it. So watching it at home really does not do it any benefits. If that makes sense.
Sure.
I don't know. That was a long story with, I don't know, much payoff.
Yeah. I don't know if
I was delighted by it.
Reams true to its overall quality, but it is a theory.
Most of the people who I know of who saw this either in a theater or in a drive-in or in that kind of setting feel more positively to it than the people who saw it at home. And I think that speaks to it. It is just one of those movies that just kind of works better when it is the thing that you are paying attention to, versus when you're at home, there's a whole lot of things that can potentially distract you. I do think there are some issues with this in how it depicts certain things and certain moments and certain morality things. And
Yeah,
like the message of the movie feels a little confused.
yeah, that's my overall issues
But I
with
do
this film. It's just those aspects.
yeah.
But it is a very colorful film that does have some fun action sequences. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
for me, the highlight of this film was just the end credits where Linda Carter shows up for a cameo. Because that was when me and my mom were watching the Linda Carter TV show around the same time, and then we saw the film. And it's like, oh, hey, it's Linda Carter. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, the story didn't really capture me as much in this one as opposed to the first one. So yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's some like there
Yeah,
is
I think that's
again
fair. I
some
have
weird moral conundrums that I don't think anyone who wrote the film or noticed that we have this issue here that Wonder Woman
yeah.
accidentally does. He yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. I have like rewatched part of this. I don't know. I was doing something else and had something else going on and had just like a little bit of time. So I was like, oh, I'll rewatch part of Wonder Woman. And I still enjoyed the parts of it that I enjoyed in the theater, but there was an element of it of like, oh yeah, I am getting a little bit bored of it in a way that I wasn't when I didn't have any distractions when I saw it in the drive-in.
Sure.
Because yeah, this is 2.5 hours long, so it is a long movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Pedro
but yeah,
Pascal's in this one.
I like Kristen Wiig. Pedro Pascal is fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Some
think there are a lot of things that work here.
yeah, there are things that work and there are things that don't work. As with like a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one that's harkening back to a simpler era of superhero movies, but as a result, there are certain elements that aren't fully thought through.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
not just the stuff with Steve Trevor, but some of the like international politics that it's doing that
and
feel a little underdeveloped.
even its connection to the overall timeline of what we've already established with the DCU is just kind of put into question at times here, which whatever. I
Yeah.
most people don't care about that. I care about that, so yeah. Anyway, um, but moving on, we have the Suicide Squad, not to be confused with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, this is like I mean, it's fascinating that, James Gunn gets fired from Marvel and DC is immediately like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, come over here and do it." And he wants to do a Suicide Squad movie, even though there has already been a recent Suicide Squad movie that did not go over well. And I mean, the results speak for themselves. This is such a better film, one that understands what is interesting about the Suicide Squad as a concept much better, and one which, as James Gunn is sort of really skillful at doing, takes characters who aren't super well known in the comics or who have these sort of weird things to them and turns them into empathetic and interesting characters. Like, I was not expecting to care this much about Polka Dot Man.
Hmm.
Like Polka Dot Man, a joke character, or should be a joke character. But no, this movie invests in his character and makes him an interesting person with an interesting arc.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is just a slam dunk on every level.
yeah. I think it's a much better product than the 2016 film. Um, Overall, I think it's a much better depiction of the Suicide Squad as a concept. But up until the third act, where once again our villains have to be the heroes at the end of the day, which I don't think is the point of this thing. Uh, and then I have an issue with James Gunn a lot of the times where he likes to depict characters that people don't think of depicting. He does it really well. But then there's like certain James Gunn isms where he'll depict characters and change them for his comedic purposes. So there's a lot of things done here for a shock factor that is disappointing for some characters. Um, yeah,
Are
that's
you talking about the opening sequence?
sure. I mean, the opening sequence, and even like maybe some of the team here, where I wrote, it's a similar thing I have with the Creature Commandos, where he does a good job with a lot of it, but then there's just some things that he does for the sake of his comedic style that rubs me the wrong way sometimes. What did I write?
Okay.
Let me look at my Creature Commandos review, because that what did I say? Okay, here's what I wrote for Creature Commandos. Gunn has always been a hit and miss director for me. He's really good at giving obscure characters screen time and publicity with his unique style of doing things. However, that's also a big issue I have at times. Most of his character adaptations are, bastardized versions with massive changes to character personalities in order to fit his sense of humor. It's a hit for audiences who don't know the characters, but a miss for those who do. He has the ability to make something genuine, but only if he respects the character and the stories enough to do that. Adam Warlock from Guardians 3 is an example of a character he doesn't really care about being played off as a joke. And yeah, that's just kind of how I've always felt with James Gunn. Which he toned down a lot of that for Superman, but there were still some hints of that shine through. And so yeah, this isn't really a film that fits my particular tastes, so I respect the overall filmmaking, but I'm not the audience for this one. So I'll leave it at that.
For me, I think just to offer a counterpoint, I think I mean, part of it is I would say that Adam Warlock in Guardians 3, and I think a lot of the characters even here, aren't just played for a joke. I think there is a lot of empathy in how he approaches the characters. Um, but yeah, I do think that is something, a criticism to be leveled against him. And I was actually, this is the first James Gunn project that I had seen that I liked. I haven't seen his pre-Marvel stuff, but I didn't like the first two Guardians of the Galaxy. So I went into this with like not super high expectations, but was completely won over. And I've since then, everything else that I've seen from James Gunn has really worked for me.
Okay.
I don't know if I can quantify why that is. I think part of it is I just don't like Peter Quill as a character. And he is obviously not a character here, and that in Guardians 3 he kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit for other characters given more time. But yeah, I just this feels like the things that I love about comic books. James Gunn is good at bringing those to the screen, where I can forgive him making changes to things because he still is making comic books that feel like comic books. Like The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight is incredible. That doesn't feel like a comic book the way this does. It doesn't have that sort of like over the top, zany, wacky stuff, which James Gunn does so well, and then also makes that stuff emotionally resonant. In a way that like I don't think any other director could do that besides like maybe Guillermo del Toro. There's probably others who I'm not thinking of, but yeah, I really enjoy this one. I like that this is not afraid to kill characters off as well.
Sure.
Like that, because that's what the Suicide Squad is. Yeah, that's I have fully said my piece on this. I love this one very much.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't have anything else to add. I have to go to the restroom, so can you start this one for me?
Yeah, I can start Black Adam. So this is a character who um, Dwayne The Rock Johnson was very interested in playing. This is traditionally a Shazam villain, though has sort of kind of transcended that, both in the comics and obviously here in the movie that they created. And yeah, this was designed sort of around Dwayne Johnson as sort of this vehicle for him playing a darker character than he was at the time. He was at this point in his career more doing action hero type movies, very generic good guy stuff. So this was his chance to be kind of a hero, which he is in this, but it is very much filtered through, he is ultimately a heroic character. Um, this is also, I mean, this was the iconic line from this is that this was intended to shift the hierarchy of power within the DCEU. That was The Rock's line about this that he kept saying.
Yeah.
And it did, in that this was the movie that made DC approach James Gunn and be like, "Hey, can you help us fix everything and completely get rid of the universe that we have created and do something new?" Because it clearly isn't working at this point. Um, yeah. This is, again, I keep talking about comic bookiness, and one of the things that I really appreciate about DC in this era is how much they are embracing that style. And going for the weirdness, the comic book stuff, the here we get the Justice Society showing up, and yeah, it's just kind of fun in that sense of like when you pick up a random comic book, you're getting introduced to a whole bunch of different characters and not getting a whole lot of information on them, but
Sure.
getting to see them use their powers and interact with each other in a way that's really fun. Um, yeah, this does feel like picking up a comic book, but it feels like picking up a kind of bad comic book.
Sure. Yeah. I like the Justice Society. It's just really weird that they're in this film because again it muddies the timeline of like, oh, all the different super teams and whatnot. It's just, here's another one that we've never heard of before and we're never going to
Yeah.
see again. And like, yeah, I love Dr. Fate and Hawkman and other stuff, but here they are here. Why are they here? I don't know. But they're here. Uh, yeah, I don't think this is a terrible film. It's a film that's okay, maybe a little generic, but yeah.
Yeah. This is Joan Collet-Serra is a director who has interesting stuff and a lot of not so interesting stuff. He really likes to use kind of ugly orange filters. This and
Mm-hmm.
Jungle Cruise came out at about the same time, and both have that kind of like bad orange filter that makes everything look a little ugly. Um, yeah, this is like there is stuff to like here. Like you said, Doctor Fate, Pierce Brosnan as Doctor Fate is a lot of fun. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest problems here is Dwayne Johnson. He's playing a character that doesn't allow him to play to his sort of charisma. He has to play this sort of like, I mean, he's going for the anti-hero vibe, and
Which,
it's not fun to
Black Adam
watch.
shouldn't be the anti-hero in his first depiction. He's
Yeah,
mostly originally more of a villain that develops
yeah,
anti-hero tendencies. Um,
yeah,
which I think they were maybe alluding to in future stuff. If they ever had like a Shazam Superman crossover film that they were evidently teasing at the end of this one, um, that never came to fruition, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on who you ask. But yeah, this was
yeah.
one that
I mean, at this,
I don't know. I waited like a decade for this one because there was rumors of this film like all the way back in like early 2010s. Um,
yeah,
everyone was fan casting Dwayne Johnson. Was it a little too late by the time this film came out that he appeared? Maybe, but hey, at least we have a fan cast that was done. Uh,
Yeah, I think I put this in the same category as John Krasinski as Reed Richards, where it's like, oh, I think we kind of dodged a bullet in not getting more of this character, of this actor as this character. Um,
we'll see. We'll see what they
yeah,
do in the future.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah. I
it'll
don't imagine they'll bring
it'll
this
be in the
version
same
of the
regard.
character back.
Yeah. But yeah, this film
Yeah,
essentially
weird
sealed the
movie.
fate of the rest of the DCU, and yeah, essentially after this, like Warner Brothers just stopped caring to promote the films in a good way, which led to the downfall of Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which had a horrendous
Yeah,
marketing program.
yeah. I mean, at this point, it's obvious that DC has completely switched gears. That they are putting out the last few things before shutting down and switching to the James Gunn universe, which we have now seen the first film in. Um, yeah, this is a sequel that I was very much looking forward to, basically up until the first trailers started showing up, and I was like, oh, this looks fine. And I think I like this one more than a lot of other people do. Um, I like seeing more of this character, of these characters, all of these characters, because there's a lot of really fun characters here. Um, but yeah, it's not up to the level of the first one, and at this point, you can tell they're doing the bare minimum here to get these movies out so that they can switch gears and do new stuff later.
Yeah, I like the first half of this film, which sets up like interesting character arcs and conflicts. But I don't know. Once we got to the second half, it was just underwhelming for me personally. But
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's a
So
shame.
this is at this point Zachary Levi has kind of gone off the deep end in a way that like makes his performance a little less fun to watch if you're aware of that in the background.
Sure. Yeah. It doesn't fix any of the problems. One of the big issues I have with the character, in that where's the wisdom of Solomon here? It's missing still. But anyway, they they
I
they
think
they
the
pointed out in the film, and they don't. It's like, come on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which, speaking of controversial figures, uh,
Oh yeah.
and like marketing issues, that leads us into the next film, which is The Flash, which, oh boy, man,
Yeah, DC had been trying to get this one off the ground for so long, and it went through so many writers and directors as they just tried to figure this out. And this feels like the kind of movie that they were just kind of, they finally got a version that they were like, okay, this is fine enough. Let's just go with this.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, we have this one was supposed to be sort of this big hit. It was being set up by Warner Brothers for success, but ended up massively underperforming at the box office, being very controversial. Ezra Miller, for all of their personal problems, I do kind of have to admit that they are very good in this film, and they're playing a role that could have, or two roles that could have very easily been very annoying, but I actually was not annoyed by their performance here. But there are some like very weird connections to their personal problems in this movie that are, I have to assume, entirely coincidental because this was filmed before a lot of the stuff had happened with them.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, this is also like trying to tie the DCEU together. This is an adaptation of um
Flashpoint
Flashpoint,
Paradox.
which is, yeah, a comic which involves Flash sort of going to different multiverses and trying to
Well,
do different things. So here we are. Or yeah, go ahead. You know
Well,
more about this than I do.
I mean, it's the story of the Flash trying to save his mum and creating a whole new universe, but it turns out that the universe
Yeah.
has some issues, which there's an animated film that does a much better version of that story. I think what this film does better is the Flash's emotional connection to the mother, but it's missing
Okay.
all
Yeah.
the cool stuff of the story. So instead of having everything around the world be different, and it's like, oh, Thomas Wayne Batman with guns. Instead, it's like, hey, Michael Keaton is back, and
Yeah.
instead of
And
malnourished
yeah.
Superman, we have Supergirl, which interesting version as well. Uh, like there's some stuff to like here.
Yeah. I actually like
There's some stuff to like
yeah.
here, but then like there's also perhaps some rushed VFX that don't
Yeah.
look great. Uh, and then the whole decision to just do the whole different multiverse cameos, just the way they did decide to depict it was just not a great idea. Um,
Yeah, it's very disrespectful what they end up doing for some of the cameos here.
it was also just
And
even
like even just
weird.
the
Like the film pauses for us to like see these giant CGI orbs come in to see the different cameos, which I think a better
yeah.
version would have been what the Flash TV show does. Is just Flash is running in this tunnel and he sees like TV screens of clips from different stuff fly by. That a more respectable way of doing it than just weird CG versions of people.
Yeah.
Boy.
I think even like the decision to revisit the last act of Man of Steel, and I mean
It's
even bringing Michael Keaton back, it feels very
Michael
tired
Keaton
in a
and
way.
Michael Shannon.
Um yeah, Michael Shannon as well. All of the like we're bringing back these things and this iconography and stuff. It feels tired, but there
Sure.
is I mean, yeah, there is stuff to enjoy here. Um yeah, this is one that I have been meaning to revisit.
Yeah.
Um
Notoriously, this
Merely
one was
partially just
supposed to like redo the DCU by switching things over. It's like now our Batman was supposed to be Michael Keaton, who we would have seen be Batman
yeah.
in the Batgirl film. Um, he was
Yeah.
yeah, like there was some weird stuff. It's the final
And then
depiction of
I think
Ben Affleck as Batman. Um,
yeah. And you can tell there were so many different versions of this, and it feels like the final cameo in this is sort of an after credit scene where the Flash has now returned to his home universe, or so he thinks, and then he sees Batman and is expecting Ben Affleck Batman, and oh, it's George Clooney Batman. It's very clear that they shot the George Clooney part like 2 weeks before the movie came out or something. Um, but yeah, no, this is just kind of they're trying to reboot things, but it feels very messy, and they aren't quite sure what
yeah,
where things are going. And
yeah,
yeah, because they could have very easily used this to tee up the James Gunn universe, and it's very telling that they didn't even bother trying to do that. That
no,
they've just kind of left this dangling. There's even like I think Aquaman. They filmed like two different versions of Batman in Aquaman, and neither of them made it into the final product.
yeah. Oh boy.
They shot both Keaton and Affleck Batman scenes for Aquaman, depending on how the Flash ended up. And then the Flash was such a dud that they didn't do either.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a very messy film, but there's like stuff to enjoy. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Again, as much as I hate to say it, I do think Ezra Miller's performance is actually very compelling. And that's like the reason that I want part of the reason I want to rewatch this is to like, yeah, I thought they were fun.
Yeah, I
as this character.
I don't think they're a great cast for Barry Allen. I think their performance was more like a Wally West, but
Okay,
anyway,
I could see that. I have less attachment to the characters than you do, so
sure.
I mean, as we have established, I hate character continuity. So
That's what I'm all about most of the time. Uh yeah, speaking of character continuity, well, from my end, we have Blue Beetle in his first live action depiction since the Smallville TV show.
yeah,
Yeah. Did you see this one or did you skip this one?
I did. I came to it a little late and
Wow.
didn't love it, but it is one that, again, here we have another lead performance that I find really interesting, with Zolo Maraduena as the character here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was fun in a way that I'm like, maybe I need to revisit this.
Sure, yeah.
But I also don't feel much urgency to do that.
Yeah, this is one that started out supposed to being like an HBO Max exclusive film that then got turned into
Yeah.
a theatrical film. It survived the mass cancellations, tax write-off cancellations, which included a Batgirl film. Um, I I was excited for this character. I liked Blue Beetle in his animated depictions. I thought that Jolo was the perfect casting for this character. Um, I I follow this actor from the Cobra Kai TV show, and I
Okay.
saw the
Yeah.
set photos of the costume, and for the most part, it looked perfect. Um, and then the trailer comes in, and it's like, okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's like generic superhero stuff that's fun and okay, but it doesn't quite feel like Blue Beetle in a lot of sense. They don't quite capture some of his stuff, especially like the relationship between the Scarab and Jaime. Just it doesn't translate here. So, uh, outside of the visual stuff, the story I thought was just okay, a little underwhelming.
Yeah. This is one I have heard rumors, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, but I have heard rumors that James Gunn was actually a fan of Solo Maraduena's interpretation of this character, so he might be coming back for more DC stuff. I would love to see that. I think this is an interesting version of the character, and this movie is removed enough from the other DC stuff that I think they could get away with it. Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's any truth to that.
Yeah, I do think that he's supposed to be. I think the next Blue Beetle project is an animated thing that's
Okay,
part of the DCU, and I think Jolo is voicing the character. I think
okay,
that's
that's
what I've
exciting.
heard, at least. So when
Yeah,
once
I would like to see this character come back with a little bit more interesting of a project to be a part of.
sure, yeah, I would like to see more Blue Beetle. Get him to like get a full chance to shine instead of like this small film that it is. Because Blue Beetle, such an underrated
Yeah.
character, in my opinion. Like he's utilized a lot in animation, and like it's done really well. We're just waiting for the proper depictions. Give him his chance.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now we move on to the final DCEU film, which
Yeah.
again, unceremonious in its ending. The marketing didn't really care to put too much effort into it. And it's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Yeah. It's quite the note to go out on here. Don't hate this one. I think James Wan again brings such a interesting perspective and sort of comic booky vibe to this thing. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it does feel like they're kind of running on fumes here. The
Yeah.
story and characters aren't particularly interesting. You can tell that there's been a lot of reworking of different things, and there's probably like 15 different alternate cuts of this movie that include various different characters to various different extents that have been reworked over the many months that's spent in post production.
Hmm.
Yeah, it feels a little anticlimactic for
Yeah.
being the final film in this DCEU. Kind of fitting for what the DCEU ended up being. That this is the it goes out on Patrick Wilson eating a burger with a cockroach on it.
Is that how
But
it
yeah,
ends?
just very odd that that's where we ended up. Yeah, that's the after credit scene. The last image of the DCEU is Patrick Wilson eating a burger with a cockroach on it.
What a shame. What a shame. Yeah. I found the film underwhelming. I don't remember a whole lot about the details of it. I just didn't find it the most interesting. I think I enjoyed the first Aquaman more. Uh, I found it very disappointing that they cut a lot of Mera from the film instead of just recasting a controversial actress, but uh, whatever. It's not as if we were going to continue with the DCAU, so, you know.
Yeah, I think at a certain point they just had done so many reshoots and so many reworkings that they were like, okay, this version is fine enough.
Hmm.
It did like quietly make like I think 400 million at the box office or something. Um, so it was like even though it wasn't a huge success, um it was a minor success, but again, nothing that I don't think we're going to see these versions of the characters again. I mean, obviously now that Jason Momoa is playing Lobo, which is probably a better fit for him, even though I like this version of Aquaman.
Sure, but maybe one day we'll get a cool Aquaman that doesn't have like the scaly armor. That's just a simple flat texture. We'll see.
I feel like that would fit within what the James Gunn universe has done thus far.
We'll see what they do with the character. We have the
Yeah.
character show up, but that's the end of the DCU. So why don't we move on a few years earlier with standalone, not standalone, but with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, which I think we did a podcast episode, or maybe we talked about it on like our top 5 of the year. But you and I are on
Yeah.
opposite ends when it comes to these films.
Oh. Yeah, I haven't seen Joker recently enough to say anything about it with much confidence. Besides that, I really liked the style, and I remember being a little bit baffled by its themes and feeling like it maybe wasn't as coherent as it was presenting itself as being.
Sure, yeah. This is one that I was following closely since the announcement. Um, I remember when the first makeup test was released, and I was like, "Oh, that's the Joker design. Oh, I don't love it." But every time I rewatched the makeup test, I was like, "Okay, I see what they're doing here." And then same thing happens when like behind the scenes footage came out, and then the first trailer came out. It was like first thought was like, "Oh, I don't know about it," but as I like rewatched the trailer, took a closer look about what they were trying to do, I was like, "Oh, okay, I think I get what they're doing." And then I went and saw the film. I enjoyed it for what it was, being more of a character study in the 80s Martin Scorsese style. Um, I wouldn't say that this is the best versions of the character. I think it's an interesting, at the time, standalone project that I didn't think needed a sequel. And then we got a sequel. And yeah, it's a sequel. You like it more than I do. I think.
Yeah. Okay, so let me pitch why I like this so much. So Joker comes out and it is intended to be a standalone piece,
Yeah.
but it makes $1 billion, the highest grossing R-rated film ever until Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, and so Warner Brothers goes back to Todd Phillips and Joaquin is like, "Hey, we need you to make a sequel." What they come up with feels to me less like a traditional sequel and more like a coda to the original film, or sort of a response, but also like an appendix. Like the original, this is a movie about how the original Joker doesn't need a sequel or doesn't deserve a sequel. About how, the whole thing is this is a trial litigating everything that happened in the first film, and then bringing in Harley Quinn and these other aspects of it. And yeah, to me it just feels like such this fascinating thing of Todd Phillips having had this massive success and a whole lot of people having very different responses to it, kind of looking at what he did with the first Joker movie and trying to both defend and reckon with everything about it. um yeah, this is a movie that kind of hates its fans as much as it hates its detractors. Um, it's a weird attempt at a musical that doesn't quite work, but is still kind of interesting. The performances are odd. I don't think Joaquin Phoenix is very good in this one,
Yeah.
but is very, very interesting to watch play out. Yeah, I went into this one having disliked the original Joker and expecting nothing from this, and found myself actually very engaged with and interested in what this was doing and what this was saying and how this was sort of approaching the legacy of the first one. And yeah, this is a movie that is in many ways designed for people not to like it. So the fact that people didn't like it is kind of a testament to its success in that regard, weirdly. I think this is one that 30 years from now, if people are still thinking about Joker movies, people will be thinking about this one in a very different way than they did initially responding to it.
Hmm. I remember being very intrigued when they announced that this was a musical. I remember thinking, oh, that's an odd choice. But then thinking back on the first film, I was thinking about the time period that the film was established in the first one and thinking, okay, I think it would make a really interesting musical. I think it'd have a very interesting style, and that kind of got me excited. But I was very disappointed with the musical elements of the film here, where it just was more of a modern musical that didn't really have any style, and it was just the camera focusing on our singer and staying with them as they moved around. It didn't really have any imagination that should have come with it. Um, I remember just being really bored watching this film and just waiting for it to end. I just didn't really have any engagement with it. As I was really enthralled with the first film. Like, I thought Joaquin's performance in the first one was very engaging. I thought he did like okay, solid job here, but it just wasn't as engaging. Um, and the story, I don't know. I don't really care too much. I don't think it's a terrible film. I just, again, I didn't think a sequel was necessary, and I don't think they chose, in my opinion, the correct decision to do a sequel in this direction. But yeah.
See, that's my argument, is that a sequel wasn't necessary, so they didn't make a sequel. They made a thing about how you shouldn't make a Joker sequel,
Hmm.
which I think is interesting. But yeah, I'd be sitting down to that isn't a thing you can market to people.
Hmm.
Like, this movie exists to kind of prove its own existence is not necessary. Which again, I find that super interesting from an artistic perspective, but then
I
that
don't,
is
but
not something that audiences are going to sit down and be interested in. And yeah, I have you seen the musical Chicago?
no, I've not.
Okay. Because I watched that a few months after watching Joker Folie à Deux, and watching Chicago, I was like, oh, this is what Joker Folie à Deux should have been. Um, just the way it handles like fantasy versus reality and crime and punishment and the court of public opinion. I was like, oh, that's maybe a better Joker sequel than Joker Folie à Deux. Even though, again, I find Joker Folie à Deux too interesting to hate.
Okay, yeah. I don't hate it. I just don't care to think about it at all. I just leave it alone. It's like, yeah.
I think that is, yeah, I think that is a lot of people would rather erase it from their own memories and potentially from existence than think about it.
It's not worth hating.
But yeah, again, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think a lot of people hate it, but I I think there is a lot of interesting things going on in
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of interesting reinterpretations, we have the Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I mean this is kind of weird because at this point we still have Ben Affleck as Batman, but it's clear that the DCEU is kind of hitting a wall. So we get this side project of this new version of Batman. Um,
Which
they bring in Robert
takes
Pattinson,
elements
who,
from like a standalone Batman film with Ben Affleck that was supposed to happen, but they kind of got turned
yeah,
into this one.
yeah, and it is fascinating. This is like, depending on the day, this might be my favorite Batman movie. I think this just, I talked before about how there's, weirdo Batman and dark and brooding Batman. And I think this one hits the perfect middle ground between the two. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we obviously have, I mean, Robert Pattinson is very good at brooding, and there's a lot of that here. But we also just have like little moments of him being like a weirdo and like spying on Catwoman changing. And yeah, it's so much fun. This is like such an interesting interpretation of Batman, in one that is very smart. It's kind of addressing a lot of the critiques of Batman by presenting us with a version of Batman who is very good at fighting crime physically, but very bad at actually dealing with the bigger repercussions of that. And yeah, this is a Batman who hasn't learned how to be Bruce Wayne yet. And we're seeing him develop that capability. Um, this is also 3 hours long, and there's certain subplots that maybe don't need to be in here. There's stuff with Catwoman that I think this is a very good interpretation of Catwoman. I don't think we needed everything that happens in her plot line to be in this movie because it kind of distracts from the main stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is to me, this is going for sort of a Batman as detective, and we're seeing sort of influences from David Fincher with like Seven, the sort of darker, more built around a mystery,
Yeah.
and I really like that.
Yeah. I really like this one. I think it's a strong one. Uh, I don't find it to be the most rewatchable film because, like, once you know everything, I don't think it's as exciting to rewatch the whole mystery come
Yeah,
together. Um,
the like middle hour of this is a little bit like after the big chase set piece through to like when the Riddler sort of reasserts himself and the last act starts. is a little bit rough.
Okay. Well, yeah, sure.
That's when we're getting into like the Catwoman backstory stuff.
Which that stuff is just taken straight out of the comic. It's the comic it's depicting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, Robert Pattinson. He's a good Batman that I really want to see more of, but it's taken so gosh
He's a
darn
great
long.
Batman.
It's taken so gosh darn long to see more of him. Like the film ends in such a promising way that's like, I really hope they develop his character in such a way that I find fascinating from it. So hopefully it continues with
Yeah.
a solid way. But yeah, we have to wait.
Here's a statement I'm gonna make that I want to see if you agree with or not.
All right.
I think Robert Pattinson is the best version of Batman that we have in live action, at least cinematically. Not necessarily Bruce Wayne
Okay.
and not Bruce Wayne plus Batman, but just Batman. He is so expressive, and I think part of that is just like the design of the costume has been made in such a way that he can like express and move more than other actors have been able to as Batman. Um, yeah, I don't know if you agree with that or not.
It's hard to say. Because I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. Costuming wise, at
Okay.
least. And like once he has actual good stuff to perform with. But yeah, I can see this being top 3 for Batman.
Okay. Just like how expressive he is with his face.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think a lot of that is like the costume is allowing him, whereas like Christian Bale is very, very stiff, especially in Batman Begins, but throughout those
Yeah,
movies.
plus like he's doing like that deep voice, where the drugs go.
Yes.
Um
Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this version of Batman come back. I kind of hope that this is the version of Batman we get in the James Gunn universe, that carries over.
I hope that we just
But
get
if not,
a different interpretation because I just like seeing more interpretations. So
okay.
let this be a standalone trilogy and just have like a different one that more so fits James Gunn's universe, whatever he's doing.
That's fair. I will say this version of Batman, more than the Nolan version, I can imagine existing in the same universe as other superheroes.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a heightened sense of reality in this one that really fits in with that. Again, I keep bringing it up, the sort of comic booky stuff. This is more comic booky in the like darker comic book sense. But there is still that like little bit of like comic booky weirdness going on here that I enjoy. And yeah, I don't know this, but I saw this in IMAX, and when the engine starts up at the beginning of that chase scene, the whole film is like mixed around that chase scene. So that is like the first time that the entire theater is rumbling because of the sound. I loved it. I hope they re-release it in IMAX at some point because that was so much fun.
Yeah, I think when I saw the film, I think my only negative was that I didn't really care for the chase sequence that much. I liked most of everything else. It was just the chase sequence that I wasn't fully on board with. So I think the problem was the editing around the chase sequence than the sequence itself, because it was kind of hard to follow what was going on.
I think the sound design, which I don't know if this was nominated for a sound design Oscar, but it should have been because the sound design of that sequence is so good.
Sure, yeah.
Just the roar of the engine, you just feel it in your core. It is so exciting.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, I enjoy this interpretation of Batman. I think it's a solid film, at least for your first couple watch throughs. Maybe we'll see how I feel about it after 10 more watch throughs in my life. So, I recommend it. And I want to see more, but it's taken so gosh darn long.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, they're trying to make it
Hopefully
right.
soon.
But hopefully.
Yeah. Apparently the script is done and
It's
people
done.
like it. So
Yeah. Again, things are different in retrospect than they are when you're actually waiting for things. So,
yeah.
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 So that leads us to our last film that we're going to talk about today, and the most recent DC film to date. And it's the start of James Gunn's new DCU with Superman.
This is my favorite Superman movie.
Hmm.
Superman or live action.
Okay.
Superman is a character who, as someone as like a teenager who is starting to get into superheroes, Superman wasn't a character who appealed to me just because he's kind of like the default superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But as I have grown up and like seen interpretations of the character that are not the Snyder version, and not the. I mean, I like Christopher Reeves as the character. I think he is phenomenal as the character, but those movies aren't necessarily my favorite.
Sure.
But yeah, as I have learned more about the character and seen some of the animated movies, read some of the comics, I like. People don't seem to like the recent stuff, the run of like John Kent as Superman, but I really like that stuff. Yeah, I've just learned to love this character, and I've also learned to love James Gunn films. So I went into this excited, but also a little with some reservations. James Gunn has historically made superhero movies about the weirdo side characters who don't get their own superhero movies generally. He's the kind of guy who gives Polka Dot Man a character arc. So I was curious to see what he would do with the superhero. Right? There is no superhero that is as square as Superman. So bringing in James Gunn to do that is like a very odd choice, but I think he absolutely knocks it out of the park, and he's able to, in the same way that he makes you care about Polka Dot Man, he's able to make you care about this version of Superman who is horny and a Midwestern Boy Scout who's kind of perfect in a way that is realistically impossible, but that you buy into here. That he's just a guy who's trying to do the right thing.
Corny with a C.
Yes.
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 The audio kind of made it sound.
Oh, my audio was.
It sounded like something else.
I mean, with how he was kissing Lois Lane, there is also some of that.
Yeah.
No, he just seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we get like this version of Lex Luthor who I don't know if I've ever seen a villain not only be so self-aware of his own petty jealousy, but also treat that petty jealousy as if it is a strength of his. Like Superman at one point is just like, Lex, you only hate me so much because you're jealous of me. And Lex is like, I know that. That is the entire reason I do everything. That is my entire motivation, and it is my strength. It's like, oh, we're getting this villain who's not this I mean, he's not uncomplex. Like there is James Gunn is bringing a certain level of empathy to this character. We understand why this version of Lex is the way he is, but he is also just like a bad guy. Yeah, and then we're also getting this for the first time. We are getting the first film in a superhero universe where the hero who is the star of the movie is not the only superhero. Right? We're getting this Superman who exists with other heroes already there. Mm-hmm. So we get stuff like the scene, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this, minor spoilers. We get the scene where there's this like giant floating eyeball that's attacking Metropolis, and Superman is just kind of sitting in his apartment. Lois is like, hey, do you need to go do that? Superman's like, no, the other superheroes have it. And we're seeing them fight this thing in the background.
Yeah.
I I had so much fun with this. This is like James Gunn just bringing his style and his sensibilities and his sense of empathy to creating something exciting and so special.
Yeah, I think, coming into this, you knew my feelings about, James Gunn, where I'm like cautious
Yeah,
about
yeah.
his depictions. I think he nailed Superman's character. Like, he's perfect. Like, his core character is perfectly done. Um, the story, I have like small issues with the story and the plot structure overall, but I think it's a really solid interpretation that I enjoy. It feels like a comic book, and it feels a lot like watching a live
Yeah.
action cartoon comic book. And it's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's lots of fun. Like, there's this random scene that's like thrown away where Lex Luthor reveals that he has a bunch of monkeys writing angry tweets. And it's like, it's the most out there comic book thing, and it's like, oh, well, that's it's wild.
Like,
I
why
don't.
doesn't he have like algorithms writing the tweets? Why did he imprison a bunch of monkeys and like turn them into robots?
Yeah, it's like one of those comic book things that I think it's a reference to a comic book story. I don't remember, but it was just one of the things where it's like,
Okay.
oh, that's like old comic book Lex Luthor doing these wacky things. It's like, oh, that's great. Um, this film does still have like small elements of James Gunnisms that I'm not the biggest fan of in how some characters are treated. For the most part, it's with Metamorpho, but besides that, uh,
Okay.
enjoyable. I love that this Superman wants to save people. He saves squirrels. I love that.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. I love that he
I
stops.
love Ma and Pa Kent here.
Mm,
Like, as usually they're in the like Richard Donner, like older, very respectable, very buttoned up, even though they're farmers. But no, here they're like accurate middle America people. You know, they look like they are from middle America. They talk like they are from middle America today, as opposed to middle America in the 30s.
mm, yeah. Yeah, I always enjoy having Ma and Pa Kent. To just usually just follow the version where Pa Kent is dead, but a lot of the animated stuff they're both still alive, and I always enjoy seeing them being alive. Um, my favorite version of the Kents was from, I think, from the '90s Superman TV show with Dean Cain. Hold on. Okay.
Superman and Lois
Yeah, Superman Lois,
show.
The New Adventures of Superman, and also like from Smallville. But this is another really good one that I'm glad Pa Kent is still alive to give Superman his
Yeah,
fatherly wisdom. Um, I don't necessarily
we get like
love the
pocket dimension stuff.
yeah, I don't necessarily love the whole thing with Jor-El and Lara L. The comedic twist that he went with
Okay.
that route. Like
I think okay, here's my argument with that. Because there have been in the last 10, 15, 20 even years, there have been a lot of sort of evil Superman interpretations, whether it is with actual Superman with Injustice or sort of what the DCEU is building for, or like The Boys or Invincible kind of has that, though apparently I don't know. Apparently it gets more complicated later on. Or like even Eternals has like an evil Superman type character. So I like that this version of the movie is acknowledging that and making that an intentional thing that he has to prove himself not to be.
so okay, I agree with you. It's not the fact that they're evil. I think there have been versions of that where they are evil.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's the comedic side of you're here to create your super harem, and that's for comedic purposes. That kind of overshadows the core of what it is. So that's what I don't like.
Okay.
is the comedic element to
I
it.
thought that was a fun.
I don't like it.
I thought that was fun.
That to me, that's just pure
Yeah.
James Gunn. Just I gotta put in this huge comedic crack in there that I don't I don't love that. But the evil twist, I don't mind it. It's just the comedic bit of
Okay.
it. So
Yeah. I had assumed that that was your issue because that I have seen other people say that that is their big issue
oh
with
no
it.
no
So
no
I
no
had misinterpreted where you were going.
yeah yeah no yeah no we have so many versions where they are the goodness that one version where they're not. I'm fine with that. We already have established that they're good in other versions.
Yeah.
Again,
And
it's
I
just
think
the comedy.
they're going to be complicating that with future entries. So yeah, I'm curious to see
I
where
don't
they
know
go.
if they
But yeah, this
will.
is like,
I don't know if they will.
well, I maybe not. So James Gunn has said that like, no, this is intentional. I do think there's going to be more with Krypton in general.
especially with a
Like I don't
Supergirl
know if
film.
the yeah,
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. We'll
I
see.
don't think that his parrot that Jor El and Lara El are like representative of what Krypton in this universe is going to be. But maybe they are. Either way, I'm curious to see where this is going. Like this is such a good introduction to this new universe.
Hmm.
Like I am much more excited for what is coming up than I was before.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do. Um, I don't think this is a perfect film, but I think it's a really good one, and it's the best representation of Superman that we've had in a while in the theatrical release. Because I know that Superman and Lois, the TV show, is solid, and the new animated Superman show is solid as well. So we're getting our hopeful Superman, who's a good character again. So
Oh.
yeah, anything else you wanted to say about this film, or just films in general?
Yeah, I did. I know you are planning on covering some of the less major releases later. But I was just to quick give my thoughts since I don't know if I will be there for that stream. Catwoman,
Catwoman.
baffling. I kind of respect the weird swings it takes, but it is not good. Um, Constantine, I was hoping to like it more than I ended up liking it.
Hmm.
But Tilda Swinton, always great. E for Vendetta, I haven't seen in many years, but I remember really liking it, and I really do need to check it out again. Yeah, I don't know if there's any. I mean, there's like the weird, like Road to Perdition, or there's like
The
other random
Losers.
DC adaptations where you
Um,
don't. Yeah, which
Jonah
I haven't seen
Hex.
that
Yeah.
one.
Other DC
Edge
adjacent
apparently.
labels, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Kitchen. I know about that one, but I haven't seen it.
Not directly DC
Yeah.
in what we typically know. But yeah. So yeah, that's that's the majority of like the mainstream films. Again, we're gonna cover the other stuff in a later stream. The next stream that we're gonna be doing is gonna be covering the TV shows. I don't know if you'll be joining me for that one, Jay. Um, that's gonna be whenever.
Probably not because I haven't seen most of those.
Yeah, but you're a good listener. uh,
It will depend on if I have time.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I think that should about do it today. So we'll say our farewells then.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
So long, farewell.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Ciao.